Well, welcome back everybody to another episode of Automotive Drama. I'll try to make this quick and as easy to explain as I possibly can. This car is coming in with a no start issue, okay, and a stalling issue. Okay, now I can't tell you if they're the same issue or not. I have to fix the no start issue. Now, of course, the starter was a clicking away. But the weird thing about it was that it's losing all power. Lights, dash, only the check engine light would come on. You shake the shifter, let it sit for a while, and sometimes it would start and sometimes it would click. So I played with it for a while. And to make it short, I got it in the shop. It was hot. I was able to actually get my voltmeter up in there on the starter wire, which you see hanging right there right now, and had somebody try to start it until it wouldn't start, and we did it several times. I mean, I've done this a million times on starters. It had like 11.2 volts, which in reality the starter motor should spin over. Now, this thing is wired battery to starter and then back to the alternator from the starter. So it charges through the starter wire back to the battery, basically. So I was like, all right, well, it's charging. Okay, the wire should be good. Now, if you always want to know if it's not the cable and if it's actually the starter, and I already volt dropped all the other cables, you volt drop it under a load while it's doing exactly that. Well, where that thing is at, and I'll show you in the other video when I show you how to put this thing back in and how it comes out. You're not going to get, I'm not going to put third degree burns on my hand to do that. I'm sorry, I'm dedicated to finding the problem, but I already kind of was pretty confident the starter was no good, so I told him I got to start with the starter. I got to fix the most obvious, but to know for sure if that cable is bad or not, because it's powering the battery back from the starter. That's, don't ask me, that's one of GM's wonderful engineering nightmares. This whole Cadillac is an engineering nightmare. So I had to come up with a way to volt drop that wire without burning my hand off. And trust me, you ain't getting up there. Getting that starter out is, what a joke. But so I brought out, I had to borrow one of these things. I don't even have one anymore. The old battery load tester. And there's the voltmeter. Now you see how the wire, the red wire to the red wire, that's coming from the battery post, the other side of that wire. And then the black wire is hooked up over there. So all I'm measuring is the volt drop across that wire. Now I've already done this once. I had to do it, but if you look, the battery's 12.5 volts. I don't know if you can read that old thing. And it's way up there. Now you see the top one says 1,000 amps. That's, if it goes on with a little mark right there, that's like 10.5 volts. That's, you know, borderline. Well, this thing stayed right around 11. And I was watching it, the same that was at the starter, and I had to figure out the amperage for at least a general idea, because it doesn't really give you an exact amperage. So 750 cold cranking amp battery. Now, here's the deal. I'm gonna load it. I lost connection. Hang on. What's going on? There we go. I lost connection again. Hang on. I had a ground a minute ago. There we go. Now I'm pulling a ton of amperage through this thing. Look at it smoking. And the voltmeter didn't say anything. A minute ago I checked it and it was like, it said 0.1. So I'm going to make sure my connections are still good at the voltmeter. I gotta let this volt pile cool off a little bit, but, or this carbon pile. Let's go and make sure my voltmeter, a minute ago it said it was working. Hang on 1 second. Do another quick. There it goes. 0.1. Okay. 0.1 volts. Now, the question is 0.1 volts. I'll disconnect all this because I don't want to set the car on fire. Okay. 0.1 volts of how many amperage? It's 2% maximum load value on a wire. So from there to that starter wire around, we'll say that's 730 cold crap. We'll say 600 amps. And you've seen I loaded that baby really hard. So 2%, waiting for my computer to come back up, of 600. That's the calculated value. That voltmeter says 0.1. With that kind of amperage, I'm going to do the math here in a minute, but I'm pretty confident that that wire is pretty good. I mean, 2% of 600, top of my head, that's like 4 maybe? I don't know. I'm going to do the math in a minute. But if you really want to know if the starter was bad, that is the best way to always check to make sure that the starter is bad and it's just not the cable, especially in this instance where it was drawing all the power down and only the check engine light was sticking on. And that was it. I mean, it was totally dead. No headlights, nothing. I already went through every wire, positive, negative wire, while it was under a load with the starter not engaging. Engage, I could hear the starter engage, and it would take 10-15 seconds for it to unclick. I could just hear it, so I knew it was engaging. But I also knew I had 11.3 volts there, which 99% of the time it's going to be the starter. Very on a rare occasion, a bad cable will do that. That's why I always volt drop the cable, so I know for sure if it's starter. And that was the only possible way I could volt drop that cable that I could come up with without setting the car on fire, burning up my wires, or my hand. Anyways, tune in later so I can show you how to put this thing back together, and hopefully it fixed the stalling problem. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and tune in again for more episodes.